side of him. I think he's still that same Steve. He's still that. But now you're also seeing another side of him that he never had to show.
Telling people you work with, I don't want you even to be next to me. Like, I have such disdain for you that I'm annoyed by your presence.
Yeah, TV talk show.
Okay, this was the one he had on NBC just recently.
Whatever, yeah.
Okay.
The one that, damn, who took his show from him?
Kelly Clarkson.
How can Kelly Clarkson take your show?
I heard you go on the air and you said, my sister done burnt too many bridges and there's nothing I can do for her now. Steve, do you know how hurt I was?
Steve Harvey didn't just rise to the top. He climbed over people to get there. At least that's what more and more comedians are saying. The jokes have stopped, and now the truth's spilling out loud. Some of Steve's own peers claim his road to fame wasn't so squeaky clean.
By the way, this is the same guy who rails against people who don't believe in his particular voodoo.
Right? Against gay people.
Against gay people, against Asian.
Behind that sharp smile, smooth suits, and those preacher-style speeches were broken friendships, stolen jokes, and shady backroom moves that left a lot of folks salty in the comedy scene. For years, everyone stayed quiet, but now people are finally talking. And their version of Steve Harvey's come up ain't matching the one he's been preaching.
You know, my thing with Steve Harvey is that he used my material on both his platforms.
Yeah.
After I talked to him, I saw him at Def Jam, I went up and talked to him, I said, man, you're using my material.
Steve Harvey, one of the biggest names in comedy and TV today. The man went from late night stand-up hustles to hosting Family Feud, Miss Universe, The Steve Harvey Show, even dishing out life lessons like he's running a Sunday sermon. He's everywhere, on air, online, in books and podcasts. The picture-perfect self-made mogul. Proof that faith and grind can turn a broke man into a billionaire brand. But behind that applause and empire, those who knew him before the fame swear the Steve Harvey you see now ain't the same man who once struggled on the grind.
This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless.
Let's spin it back to the late 80s and 90s, the golden age of stand-up comedy. Back then, Steve Harvey wasn't the TV mogul we see now. He was just another hungry comedian chasing the spotlight. He was funny, sharp, and driven, no doubt, but he wasn't alone. The scene was packed with killers: Mark Curry, D.L. Hewley, Cat Williams, Monique, Cedric the Entertainer, and the legend Bernie Mac, all grinding from Chicago's smoky clubs to Atlanta's open mics, earning stripes one joke at a time.
Bernie said in the GQ article that when he got Ocean's 11, Steve had reached out to the producer and said he thought he would be a better fit and tried to get the part and blah, blah, blah. And that's, you just...
Everyone respected the hustle, but more importantly, they respected the code. And in comedy, there's one rule you never cross. You don't steal another comedian's material, ever.
Comedians don't appreciate their jokes being stolen, and Steve Harvey has rubbed several comedians the wrong way. Well, it looks like Harvey has found himself in some trouble.
No Halloween costume. I think we UPS, I guess, I don't know.
You've heard me say that every Halloween I had the same outfit on. I just had a brown box. And he just told me to tell everybody I was the UPS man.
My material on his show, so I had a beef on that.
On what show?
When he was on the bullshit talk show he had. And he did all my Halloween material one Halloween.
Says he knows that Steve Harvey stole his Halloween bit because it was a personal story. He was talking about himself growing up.
This cat is hot. Please put your hands together for Cat Williams.
Saying you are not supposed to be at the gas station making life decisions.
Can't even pump gas like you used to no more.
If you put $15 in your tank, you had time to bond with your vehicle. You had time to put the nozzle in and
put the nozzle in there and hit it.
Set the clicker and look through your car and clean off the dashboard and
be sitting there talking, be on your phone. Hey, what's happening? Be walking around, cleaning the windshield.
Run in the store, get some Pringles and a Snapper, and it'll still be pumping.
Okay, you go in there, bring me a wine cooler. Bring me a cooler, dog. Not no more.
You can't even turn around good for that son of a bitch click. Just soon as you put it in, just click, click.
Get in there and start it up, and you can't believe that damn needle is a quarter tank of gas.
The same Steve that went to the... Then you add...
That's where things start heating up around Steve Harvey, because it ain't just one person pointing fingers. It's been whispers for years, a pattern that just won't die down. One of the loudest voices calling him out, Mark Curry, the star of that classic 90s sitcom Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
We going through something, we'll call each other because we feel for each other, because we know the real person.
Right, yeah.
I know they lying about you online. I know that podcast is bullshit. Hang in there, dog, don't pay no attention to that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and look, man, just because you can talk smooth without saying, it don't mean you ain't lying.
Right.
I be sitting up here looking at these podcasts of these other comedians that's going on talking about other comedians. Hold up, dog. Where did that shit come from? When did we become that? When did we get into tear each other down business? Because you ain't never heard me say not a disparaging remark against another comedian nowhere. You ain't heard him or him, because we ain't cut from that cloth.
Right.
So why are you, what is your motive for doing this here? And you're not gonna tear him down. And look, man, I got a real platform.
Mark's been in the game just as long as Steve, but when his old interview resurfaced, he didn't bite his tongue. He said flat out, "Steve Harvey stole my whole routine. He took my jokes, put them on TV, and acted like he made them up." This wasn't some random accusation. Mark Curry said he saw it happen with his own eyes. He claimed that when the Steve Harvey show dropped, he instantly recognized scenes, setups, and punchlines that were straight up word for word his own material. And this ain't the first time someone said that about Steve.
Harvey is on his third marriage. His third wife was mistress to his second wife.
He got it. Everybody thinks Steve Harvey's some stand-up man. No, I'm a kiss the old girl who owned TV One. He used to kiss her. He had the radio show out.
It was hot. We had the Steve Harvey show, so we had a national TV show. Bernie Mac was the it comedian at the time, and then DL was hot. He had a TV. But the first year we did it, it was just me, Bernie, and Steve.
Right.
And Steve closed.
You did the first part, and then the second part.
I think, of course, that was, definitely a contributing circumstance. But I also
like me, like Oprah, Tyler, Lee Daniels. And I gotta put my brother Steve on the list. Y'all knew I was not wrong.
Love every time, had him on my show every time. But if you're gonna do another stick, just tell the brother that you're sticking with. Dog, I'm gonna be dogging you on the...
For years, smaller comedians, openers, writers, and folks who worked around him whispered that Steve would scoop up their jokes, clean them up, and flip them into his own material on stage. But Mark Curry, he's the one who finally said it loud enough for the world to notice. He said, "It's one thing to be inspired by someone, but when you steal a man's act, that's robbery." That hit hard, and what made it worse, when Mark tried to call him out back in the day, nobody wanted to hear it. Because by then, Steve wasn't just a comic, he was a full-blown brand. The big suits, the big smile, the talk show king, and nobody in the industry wanted to challenge that shine. But Mark wasn't the only one. A few years later, Cat Williams came for Steve too, and he didn't hold back for a second. In one explosive interview, Cat said, "Steve Harvey ain't the king of comedy. he's the king of stealing jokes. Then he dropped the bomb, claiming Steve built his whole career on Bernie Mac's back. That line cut deep because Cat wasn't just talking about jokes, he was talking about loyalty. See, Steve, Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, and D.L. Hewley were supposed to be brothers in comedy. All four of them, Steve Harvey, Bernie Mac, Cedric the Entertainer, and D.L. Hewley, starred in the original Kings of Comedy, a film that changed the entire game for black comedians. It was supposed to be about unity, four brothers lifting each other up, shining together, and showing the world their greatness. But after Bernie Mac passed away, things turned ugly. Rumors started swirling that Steve used Bernie's death to climb even higher, stepping into that king role and soaking up the spotlight all for himself. Cat Williams once said, Bernie was the people's champ, Steve was the TV champ, but Bernie never sold out, and that's exactly why the fans loved Bernie more. Soon people started digging up old clips, interviews they'd never thought twice about, and suddenly they started looking real different. Like that awkward Oprah moment where Steve talked about Bernie's rise with a shade of jealousy in his tone, or when he told D.L. Hewley, some people ain't meant to be stars like me. Those words hit hard now, especially with all these accusations floating around. When comedians like Cat Williams, Mark Curry, and Monique all start echoing the same message, that Steve's success came from stepping over people, you gotta wonder if those smiles are hiding more than anyone knew. Even D.L. Hewley, one of Steve's oldest friends, has thrown some subtle shots. In a recent podcast, he said, Steve knows how to survive in any room, but that don't mean everybody likes how he does it. He was talking about Steve's two-faced survival game, saying one thing to the streets and another to Hollywood execs. Basically, Steve's the kind of man who knows how to play both sides. And that's exactly what other comedians say makes him dangerous. See, the comedy world runs on authenticity. Real recognizes real, but Hollywood, that's a whole different jungle built on survival. And Steve Harvey figured that out early. To make it to the top, you gotta do whatever it takes, even if it means breaking a few hearts on the way up. One comic who used to grind with Steve back in the day said it plain. He'd laugh with you one night, then be meeting with your agent the next morning pitching your jokes. That's how Steve moved. Smooth, strategic, and always one step ahead. That's how you go from smoky comedy clubs to primetime TV. But it also explains why, as Steve's fame skyrocketed, his friendships in the comedy world quietly disappeared. Now, let's get into one of the biggest public fallouts. Steve Harvey versus Monique. When Monique started calling out Hollywood for blackballing her, Steve was one of the first to clap back publicly. On national TV, he told her, "You can't sacrifice money for integrity. This is the money game." That clip went viral instantly, and it showed the world exactly how Steve thinks. For Monique, that moment was personal betrayal. She saw Steve as a friend, a fellow comedian, a brother in the grind, but right there, she realized he wasn't standing with her. He was standing behind the system that shut her out. Fans saw that too, and they started connecting the dots fast. If Steve was bold enough to turn on Monique on live TV, who else might he have flipped on behind closed doors? The wildest part? Even Steve himself once admitted it. In an old interview, he said, "I've done things I ain't proud of, but when you hungry, you eat what's in front of you." That line says it all. The man knew exactly what game he was playing. At first, it sounded like just a metaphor. When you hungry, you eat what's in front of you. Until people started thinking maybe he meant that literally. Because every comedian who knew Steve back in the day described him the same way. Hungry, ambitious, and ruthless to a fault. The kind of man who wanted success so bad, he didn't care who got crushed in the process. But here's the truth. The higher you climb, the louder the people you stepped on start to talk. And now, years later, that past is creeping right back up on him. Old clips are popping back up, comedians are speaking out, and fans are finally spotting the cracks in Steve Harvey's perfect man image. And this ain't just about stolen jokes anymore. This is about how fame can twist a person's soul. Remember, this is the same Steve who preached faith and family values every Sunday morning. yet cheated on his wife and rebuilt his empire with Hollywood money. The same Steve who talks loyalty every chance he gets, but allegedly cut quiet deals that left his own peers in the dust. Even his old radio crew said they felt tossed aside once he made it big. They said, Steve don't keep friends, he keeps opportunities. That's cold, but maybe that's how the Hollywood game really goes. And still, Steve keeps winning. No matter who calls him out, no matter what story breaks, he just keeps smiling, keeps praying, and keeps cashing massive checks. Family Feud ratings breaking records, books flying off shelves, motivational clips going viral every week. It's like the hate just bounces right off him. And maybe that's the real secret. Steve Harvey understands the power of image. He once said, if people believe you're blessed, they'll forget what you did to get there. And looking at him now, it's hard to argue. He might have been right. But here's the question. Can a man really build an empire off bad karma and still sleep like a baby at night? Because for all his fame, Steve is also one of the most criticized men in entertainment. Every single year, there's a new headline, a new scandal, or an old friend popping up saying, that ain't the Steve y'all think he is. From Bernie Mac's tragic passing, to Monique's betrayal, to Cat Williams' savage callouts, Steve's name keeps circling back every time someone talks about the snakes of Hollywood, and that says a lot. Maybe Steve Harvey is the uncomfortable truth about success, that being talented ain't always enough. Sometimes you gotta be ruthless, strategic, and smile while you take what's yours, just hoping nobody catches you in the act. Because in this game, it ain't always the funniest who win, it's the smartest. And make no mistake, Steve Harvey is one of the sharpest players comedy's ever seen. But like D.L. Hewley once said, just because you made it don't mean everybody clapping is happy for you. Maybe Steve's rise really was legendary, but it came with casualties, friendships lost, trust broken, and respect shattered along the way. Now, as more comedians keep stepping up and telling their stories, fans are left wondering, did Steve Harvey build his success, or did he borrow it from everyone around him? Either way, the truth's out now. While Steve's busy writing the next chapter of his empire, the folks who helped build the first one are finally telling theirs. Because comedy might be all about timing, but karma? Oh, it always shows up right on schedule. So what do you think? Did Steve Harvey climb the ladder fair and square, or did he climb over the people who trusted him? Drop your thoughts below, hit that subscribe button, like, share, and comment if you want more stories just like this, only on Dripzine.